Hello everyone, and welcome back to a long-awaited episode of Red Raptor Writes. I've promised this one several times now, but coming off of my Jurassic Park accuracy review, I figured now would be the best time to discuss the Jurassic frog fallacy. This is a common, pervasive bad take in the Jurassic fandom when if anyone ever dares to criticize anything about any dinosaur in this series, there's a 99% chance you'll hear this.
Nothing in Jurassic World is natural, and if their genetic code was pure, many of them would look quite different.
And if one of these commenters wants to be creative, you might also hear this.
Now what John Hammond and InGen did at Jurassic Park is create genetically engineered theme park monsters.
The argument basically goes like this. You can't criticize the dinosaurs in their look or behavior or accuracy or whatever because nothing in Jurassic Park or World was supposed to be accurate. Everything was a hybrid and has been tainted by amphibian DNA. It's constantly in the comments of my videos, other people's videos, and other videos in general. I'm blurring out the names because I don't want to start a hit piece. This isn't to bring anyone down or target anyone specifically. The bad take is just too prevalent to ignore. In this video, I'll debunk it point by point and hopefully prevent this lazy excuse from being brought up some more. I say that the dinosaurs in JP were accurate in universe. Paleontology in the movies and in real life are different. It's an inaccurate, fantasized version of actual science. That's not a strike against the movies, they're just movies, never trying to be straight up educational television. But that's not enough for these particular fans. Every inaccuracy has to be excused by what I'm calling the frog fallacy. So guys, let's dig this up. Jurassic Park gives us a lot to compliment and criticize in regards to accuracy. I just spent nearly an hour doing so. Try the latter and you'll be hit with the frog fallacy. This is commonly applied to a couple of inaccuracies. The T-Rex vision, Velociraptor size, and lack of feathers are the main ones you'll see, but really it can be anything. Bring up any point and someone's bound to quote Jurassic World in the comments. I'll tackle these big three though, explaining why it's not the splicing that made them inaccurate. Okay, first one, Tyrannosaurus's visual acuity is based on movement. It can't see you if you don't move. This is obviously not true. T-Rex had some of the best eyesight ever, even rivaling modern birds of prey, so what gives? Some fans will instantly jump and shout, "Frogs!" We know this isn't the case though. In Jurassic Park, this predator canonically had bad eyesight, not just the one on Isla Nublar. We know this because of Dr. Grant. During his dig in Montana at the beginning of the first movie, he very explicitly said,
"You keep still because you think that maybe his visual acuity is based on movement like T-Rex."
At this point in the story, Alan has not met the living T-Rex. He has not watched the Mr. DNA video. He didn't know about Jurassic Park's existence, and heck, he only vaguely knows John Hammond as someone who helps fund his digs. They haven't even met before. So then, how would Grant know that the amphibian DNA caused it to have movement-based vision? Easy answer, he didn't. This is just a fact about Tyrannosaurus in universe. Through the fossils, paleontologists were able to make this assumption, and it was confirmed later. Next, there's a similar situation with the size of velociraptors. In Jurassic Park, they can grow up to 6 feet tall, taller than the humans. Not sure what about splicing would cause them to grow this way, maybe there's some polar bear in there. But again, this is simply how they are in universe. Well, I talked about the whole backstory to this in my accuracy review. The short and sweet version is that there was a book from Gregory S. Paul that lumped Velociraptor and Deinonychus. Michael Crichton liked the idea and he thought of the larger North American genus as another species of Velociraptor. This is explicitly stated in his novel and continued for Spielberg's film adaptation. That's the practical, straightforward explanation for this. They're really exaggerated Deinonychus. In film canon, this lumping stuck, so they're all still called Velociraptor. Once again, the dig site scene pokes a major hole into the hybrid theory. No, the large size isn't due to being a hybrid and splicing gone wrong. The skeleton itself matches the 6-foot size. Alan confirms this.
Velociraptor?
Yeah, it's good shape, too. It's 5-6 feet high, I'm guessing 9 feet long.
Again, did he know about Jurassic Park? No. Just for good measure, this happens again in Jurassic Park 3, where another large velociraptor is excavated in Montana, so this isn't some weird anomaly, so that's another one scratched off the list. Then we have feathers, probably the most contentious topic in the past 30 years of paleontology. The Jurassic franchise has been notorious for not including feathers in its depictions despite what the science says. That was until Jurassic World Dominion, but we'll get to that later in an easy slam dunk. Oh, and who can forget those little JP3 quills? Nailed it.
You serious?
Try to bring up feathers, and of course, Dr. Wu comes up. Yeah, they don't have feathers because of frog or reptilian DNA making them scaly. No, this isn't the case either. Both the Jurassic Park novel and movie came out before feathers were confirmed in non-avian dinosaurs. Sure, some paleo artists speculated fuzz on some theropods, but nothing concrete yet. Experts didn't know how feathery they were, if at all. It was easier for Crichton and Spielberg to stick with scales. They were easier to render too. This worked fine in 1993, but once Universal started making more cash grab sequels in 2015, it obviously wouldn't fly without some excuse pulled out of their butts. I'm getting ahead of myself though. We can clearly tell that in the Jurassic universe, which hopefully is in our next sequel, non-avian dinosaurs lacked feathers. I mean, if they were feathery, then wouldn't you expect one of the many paleontological experts throughout the series to bring this up? Perhaps while getting gnawed on by a velociraptor isn't a good time, but there have been plenty of other opportunities. At the dig site in the beginning of JP, Alan gave a monologue on how similar dinosaurs were to birds. That would have been a great time to bring up feathers, if non-avians had them. Same goes with Gallimimus. Grant remarks how bird-like they moved, but wait, where are the feathers? In JP3, Alan and Billy had a chat about different spinosaurids. How come they never mentioned the lack of fuzz on the many raptors they encountered? Or perhaps somehow mixing the true dinosaurs with reptilian and amphibian DNA caused all of them to develop in the dinosaur renaissance style by perfect coincidence. At this point in 2001, the evidence had already started to pile up, hence why quills were added like some cheap compromise. Henry Clay would have done much better. Jumping forward to 2015, fully feathered dinosaurs had already been widely accepted. During this feather craze, they've been placed on everything from T-Rex to sauropods. Shouldn't Gray know about this? He knows pretty much everything else, down to the tooth count of some theropods, which gives us one of the stupidest lines in recent memory.
We need more. What? Teeth. We need more teeth.
There's no reason for me to live. No reason at all.
Yeah, buddy, it's the tooth count that matters. Why not bring out an Edmontosaurus if that were the case? It would easily clap the I-Rex. Anyway, yeah, if he's into dinosaurs, then how come he never bothers to mention their lack of feathers? I don't know about you, but if I ever went to a dinosaur zoo without feathers on Gallimimus, I would probably make a few comments. Heck, Fallen Kingdom has Zia, a paleo veterinarian. Where's her reaction? So very clearly, actual dinosaurs in the Jurassic franchise weren't supposed to have any feathers. If they were, then every paleo enthusiast would have had a meltdown. Should I talk about Spino too?
We don't talk about Spino, no.
No, I'm gonna do it. Here's a bonus fourth point. Spinosaurus isn't a hybrid either, or at least that wasn't the original intention. In 2001, this, for the most part, is what paleontologists thought the actual creature looked like. Basically just a giant baryonyx with a large sail. Aside from the double crests and pronated wrists, it was almost perfect. But paleontology has moved on. Our knowledge of Spinosaurus today far exceeds what we knew then, resulting in a very different appearance and leaving the JP3 look in the dust. Whether it's the look or aggressive behavior or whatever, some have speculated that it was the first hybrid dinosaur. Not just an impure they needed to fill in the gaps hybrid, but a hybrid. But then I'd have to ask, How did Dr. Grant recognize it as Spinosaurus aegypticus? Real experts can't even do this reliably with the fossils. If actual dinos in the films are paleo-accurate to the real world, then shouldn't he be confused by the lack of tail fin and long legs? Or, like with the feathers, maybe the actual look of Spinosaurus wasn't known yet in universe either, and this early hybrid, by sheer coincidence, ended up looking exactly like what paleontologists thought of Spinosaurus in the early 2000s. Either way, it makes zero sense. I can also bring up Camp Cretaceous and how that completely discredits this hybrid idea, but you can go check out my season 4 review for that. Again, I'm much more interested in what the creators were thinking at the time than completely unplanned sequels and shows from decades later. In 2001, this was meant to be Spinosaurus, nothing else. If Jurassic Park 3 bothered to answer the questions it brought up, then maybe I can say more about this, but it didn't. So if the amphibian DNA didn't affect any of these traits, then what did it do? Well, the answer is simple. It allowed the dinosaurs to reproduce. Some of them changed their sex to male and mated with the females. Yeah, that's it. That is the only noticeable change caused by splicing. Throughout the series, no other features or behaviors were ever attributed to the frogs. Everything else, from the looks to the size and heck even the behaviors, matched what was expected of them. The only surprise was their ability to reproduce and spitting Dilophosaurus, but I don't think anyone would want to argue that spitting a toxin came from amphibians. The only other blatant inaccuracy in universe was InGen intentionally removing the genes that allowed them to produce lysine. Everything else was meant to be real. When releasing a Jurassic Park video of any kind, there's always that crowd who comments, but in the novels, somehow Crichton's books, Jurassic Park and The Lost World, support the frog fallacy, but I have no idea how. If anything, they further confirm my point, that the dinosaurs are made to be as accurate as possible. Yeah, they couldn't be perfect replicas, but Dr. Wu got pretty darn close. Some DNA he brought in from different animals to create an overall accurate picture. In his opinion, they were too accurate. On page 141, he called them, and I quote, real dinosaurs. The dinosaurs they created were too fast in his opinion, to the point where he thought the public wouldn't find them believable. Wu actually argued to make them less accurate, to slow them down in a sad attempt to pander to the visitors, but Hammond refused. This never happened. Hammond wanted to show everyone the real deal, and he had it. This is probably one of the few times in the novel when he doesn't go into greedy dirtbag mode, showing some integrity. Reimagining his character to make him more sympathetic was one of Spielberg's best improvements.
I wanted to show them something that wasn't an illusion. Something that was real. Something that they could see and touch. A name not devoid of merit.
Whether it was in the pages or on the big screen, he wanted something that was real, not just cheap parlor tricks. And yeah, he got as close as possible aside from the gender swapping, lysine contingency, and a few extra copyrighted sequences. Just 2 pages before this, the experts visited the Velociraptor pen where they were charged by the cunning predators. Malcolm asked Grant, "Is it a persuasive dinosaur to you? Is it in fact a dinosaur?" To which Grant replied, "I'd say so, yes." The Velociraptor expert said that it was persuasive. What he did not say was, well, that amphibian DNA is morphing the velociraptors to make them big and featherless. This isn't authentic. One of Dr. Wu's concerns was getting their behavior right because it's very hard to tell how extinct creatures behaved. That's something most fossils struggle to tell you unless there's some once-in-a-lifetime beautifully preserved and articulated find. Adjustments had to be made due to some obvious flaws like the dinos uncontrollably ramming their heads against the fences, but overall, Wu saw behavior as a byproduct of DNA, something that couldn't be directly controlled. He could only hope it was accurate, but as pointed out on page 385, learning the raptors were breeding validated his work. This means their actions were very, very close enough to the point that the animals could function in nature. So yeah, the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park were accurate. Very accurate. My last point is with the T-Rex. In Crichton's story, Tyrannosaurus wasn't the only dinosaur with vision based on movement. Maiasaura and Apatosaurus also explicitly demonstrated this. For the film though, it was cut back to just a Rex, an inaccuracy blamed later on frog DNA by the fans.
Friggin' frogs!
I've read the first novel twice and started The Lost World twice, but from what I understand, the whole movement idea is brought into question in the sequel when someone gets munched on while standing still. So maybe it was the hybridization, or maybe the T-Rex just wasn't interested in the first one. Well, in the novel lore, dinosaur vision itself is based on movement, but this got changed in the sequel. That's my answer. We know the poor eyesight wasn't caused by frog DNA because T-Rex didn't have frog DNA. Don't believe me? Check page 242. Dr. Wu, investigating how the animals are breeding and grants claims that it was caused by using amphibian DNA, searched for all the ones in which he used DNA from the frog genus Rhina. Cross-referencing this data with the park's population count, he saw that the only ones breeding were the ones filled in by Rhina. This list had Maiasaura, Procompsognathus, Authanalia, Velociraptor, and Dryosaurus. No Tyrannosaurus. How could the movement-based vision come from frogs if they weren't even part frog? This is why I get so confused when frog fallacy followers bring up the novels. Crichton's continuity is very different from film continuity, but if anything, these books make my point stronger. That brings us back to Jurassic World. What does it mean when Dr. Wu and the JW fanboys say,
But we are doing what we have done from the beginning. Nothing in Jurassic World is natural.
Well, technically yes. Each dinosaur is, technically speaking, an unnatural hybrid. That is until Dominion further shoots itself in the foot, but we'll get there soon. Before Dominion, each additional genus created had gaps filled in by other animals. But even with this splicing, they almost perfectly resembled the real things. In universe, of course. Wu brings this up because the writers wanted to retcon the originals. We'll talk more about retcons as a whole later, but Jurassic World had a problem. As I previously mentioned, the look of dinosaurs has changed drastically since the 90s. Heck, the creators wanted to make them even less accurate. That's the exact opposite of what some fans are hoping for. Now, I can't prove motive, never try that in court, but it seems to me like this line was included as a cheap backdoor to excuse all the inaccurate designs. Why are the raptors bulky and scaly? Why do the stegotails droop now? Why do the wrists face downward still? And so on and so on. Splicing? It's a deliberate perversion of Crichton's and screenwriter Kep's original intentions. Nothing in Jurassic Park was natural, but near perfect reconstructions. Here in Jurassic World, Wu makes it sound like they just slapped some genes together and went, close enough.
Stop it. Get some help.
No, Wu, this is not what you've been doing from the start. You can't compare this mishmashed made-up Indominus Rex to actual dinosaurs. This thing wasn't real. It never existed. A bunch of dinosaurs along with vipers and cuttlefish were put into a blender and spat out this bland monstrosity. The Velociraptor did exist. Now, they're just dependent on provided lysine and can change sex. Guys, animals have generic names for a reason. It isn't for popular culture or marketing like, say, the Transformers. It's because scientists like to stay organized and keep track of which animal is which, where do they fit in the family tree, what groups with what. Why even use the scientific names for these animals if you're really just pulling them out of your butt? More recently, in Jurassic World Dominion, Trevorrow continues his scientific damage control by adding some feathers and claiming that, now the bias in paleofauna is 100% pure now, they have feathers. Okay, sure, you added feathers to some dinos, nice, but this is what you call 100% accurate? The Giganotosaurus looks like a roided out crocodile with Joker scars because clearly it just wants to watch the world burn. Quetzalcoatlus is competing with Rodan in size. And with Pyroraptor, what the heck is its face? It looks like someone just beat an Allosaurus with a baseball bat. And why is it semi-aquatic? Really? These are your totally accurate creatures? Aside from the fluff, they're overall less accurate than the originals. The problems don't just end in Biosin Valley, but what happened with that prologue? How are Tyrannosaurus, Ankylosaurus, and Quetzalcoatlus from the very end of the Cretaceous, joined by Nasutoceratops, Dreadnoughtus, Giganotosaurus, Oviraptor, and Moros from various stages of the late Cretaceous? This level of time travel puts even Nigel Marven to shame. Here we get to see more inaccurate but supposedly accurate designs too, like the still overly round Rex skull with giant eyebrow ridges. I can go all day with scientific problems, but that isn't what this video is about. Heck, I wouldn't even care all that much if it wasn't for the film advertising its dinosaurs as completely pure. Nah, these are the real guys, not tainted by splicing. The only reason they're inaccurate in the park is because nothing in Jurassic World is supposed to be natural. This series is accurate, but the dinosaurs just look that way due to gene editing. Alright then, but some people who think more originally will bring up Alan's lecture towards the start of JP3.
Genetically engineered theme park monsters, nothing more and nothing less.
It's important to note that Dr. Grant isn't some omniscient, detached narrator. He doesn't know everything, and his word isn't law. In the first movie, he made assumptions based on fossil evidence, assumptions that would be proven true to the audience. Here, answering a question about InGen's creations, Alan is clearly biased against them, even getting hilarious nightmares about them.
Alan.
Funding is drying up. Nobody cares about his work anymore, and all anyone wants to hear about is Jurassic Park. Clearly he's bitter about the whole thing, so throwing shade at their dinos comes naturally. Later, when Grant's on Sorna, he made observations about them as if they were actual animals, so there is a bit of an arc there too. Him calling them theme park monsters in the beginning isn't meant to be taken as pure fact. To close this video off, let's talk about retcons in general. The term retcon is short for retrocontinuity, when different and often contradicting information is introduced to change the interpretation of a previous story. I'm not about to paint in broad strokes and claim that they're always bad, but this is very often the case. The problem with retcons is that, well, when storytelling, you want the audience to invest in your world, your story, and your characters. Any writer worth a New York Times bestseller knows this. Oh wait, everybody gets those. By engaging with the material and understanding the complexities, audiences should feel rewarded. Jurassic Park itself is a great example of setups and payoffs. You feel giddy when you follow each seemingly minor detail, only for it to lead to something bigger in the future. Retroactively changing the continuity, though, not only robs audiences of their reward, but actively discourages them from engaging in the material further. Like, if the lore can just be changed on a whim, then why bother caring? Why follow the breadcrumbs? If you somehow cared about Maisie and her backstory in Fallen Kingdom, then you were punished in Dominion when that story was completely rewritten. It went from Benjamin Lockwood, whose inclusion was already a retcon, cloning his daughter, to his daughter cloning herself to cure some disease she had because she was the most brilliant scientist to walk the planet, though for some reason no one ever bothered to mention her. Psh, yeah, that'll teach you not to care about these characters. The most egregious example in recent memory is the infamous
somehow Palpatine returned.
Yeah, so everyone who invested in Anakin's character arc and Luke's journey to becoming a true Jedi just got the biggest middle finger. All their sacrifices were for nothing and Palpatine is inexplicably back, but that's just another example. I've been a Jurassic Park fan all of my life. I watched the trilogy countless times. I played some of the video games. I surfed that early website. And to address the gatekeepers online, yes, I read the first novel, even before Jurassic World. I understood that the frog DNA allowed dinosaurs to change sex and reproduce. Velociraptor was big because it was based on Deinonychus, and Dr. Wu thought he made the dinosaurs too accurate. So when Jurassic World rolled around in 2015 and threw this crap at the screen, I was being punished for following along. The continuity I followed no longer mattered because one day Colin Trevorrow chose to make up for horrible designs. Retcons also have the bad effect of confusing audiences. As you may have noticed, I have a different interpretation of the series than some of you watching. A lot of that may be due to the fact that I vividly remember a world before Jurassic World.
Good times, good times.
I was 16 when that mess came out, so I spent my formative years with the original trilogy. I put more stock into what they said than the newer ones. For some younger viewers, well, they're more accustomed to the world films than I am and are willing to accept their version of events. So something in Jurassic World, like the dreaded Dr. Wu quote, may be right in that trilogy's lore, but openly contradicts something from Jurassic Park. Then that raises the question, which lore is the true lore? Are the dinosaurs unrealistic in universe because of the filled gaps? Or are they exactly what paleontologists expected with only minor changes? Both may be right if you value the retcon as much as the original intention, but I don't, because A, Jurassic Park is a far superior film, B, this came much later after the canon was already firmly established, and C, I can see through this scene for what it is, a lame excuse for not being accurate. In my opinion, if you're continuing a beloved series, you should adhere to what's already been established, rather than crossing out and adding whatever you'd like. Respect the continuity and respect the fans who've invested in it. Okay, I did not expect this video to go on for that long, but it all needed to be said. So now, rather than having to reply to 1,000 comments that push the frog fallacy, I can just send them this. Other YouTubers out there, feel free to quote my work just to save yourself the effort. I'm tired of commenters attempting to invalidate any and all criticisms just because of a dumb retcon that doesn't even follow itself all the way through. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to please leave a like, subscribe, and check out my social media. See you next time.